Second. Okay.
Okay. Call to order the September 12th, 2018 Library Board meeting at 5:07. Present are Ken Hall, Larry Osborne, Don Wright, Nick Dierkman, and Jan Wallander, members of the board, and Denise Butcher and Mo Cole, library staff. We have one excused member of the board. First, check in any other changes in the agenda that you all have seen. Okay, and then the first agenda item is approval of the minutes from the August board meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to view those.
I move they be approved as presented. I second.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the August 8th meeting as written and presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Thanks Denise Alwas for the great minutes. Next agenda item is public comment, but I don't see any public unless they're in some altered state. So we'll assume there isn't any public comments at the moment and move on to the library director's report for August. And you'll be talking a lot today, it looks like, Mo. There was a lot on this agenda.
Feel free to jump in. Okay, so we'll just kind of breeze through this. The August was a very busy month, as is always at the library. And we wrapped up summer reading. The statistics are really good, especially with youth. Summer reading went up and was registration increased by 10%. And then since I included this, I also got like the final report from her, but I didn't have time to like include that. I just recently got that and haven't even really like fully processed it. But we had way more finishers than usual. In fact, we ran out of like prizes and all that, the bags and all that stuff, like any number of times. So Barrett was always scrambling to kind of create more prizes, which was just like, coupons and all that stuff, but just collecting all that stuff. So one of the things she did this year was she did go to one elementary school, Beaver Creek, and really, really talk it up a lot. And this coming year, she plans on going to many, many more elementary schools. And so we expect next year to be like really a big jump also, because going to the schools ahead of time just makes a big difference. It really gets it out in front of kids, then they want to do it and all that stuff. So we'll be doing that. Adults actually were kind of down from last year by a significant amount. We had actually 450 adults sign up last year, but the adults who signed up this year participated to a higher level. So we almost had the same number of reading slips, for instance, which is kind of interesting. So fewer people participated, but they participated at a higher rate. And, programs were great. We had the family concert series was like so amazingly popular because it really did bring in families and groups as well. So like certain group homes would bring all their members every week, which was super, super nice because it was an easy activity for many people to participate in. And, people could bring lunches, hang out in the grass, do the spray park, do the concert, go inside the library or not. And we got lucky as far as heat. The heat index was high, but not off the charts on our days. We got really lucky. So they're actually thinking about doing a concert series next year as well, even though music isn't necessarily the theme. And I mean, I think it's a great idea. And I think it's also a nice supplement to the Parks concert series, which is just bigger in many, many ways. This is just more relaxed, more low key.
And much more diverse, I think, in the music. It did some really
Well,
great,
that was
right,
Sabrina's goal this
Yeah.
year. Yeah, and people, I think, really enjoyed that a lot. Yeah.
The drummers were fantastic.
Weren't they amazing?
Yeah.
And that was our biggest audience of like 400 people, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
it doesn't even look like that many people, but you start counting and you're like, oh my goodness, that's like, yeah, it adds up really fast. So
I saw
that
also
feels,
this youth music project had a pretty good turnout
Yeah,
for teens. That was-
which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Sabrina really has a heart for like the whole teen age group, so she's really trying to promote those programs and do right by them, which is really good. As far as statistics go, I think they all look really great. Our door count was not quite as high as this time last year, but it was still over 40,000. So I think we've kind of figured out where that summer range is like between 38 and 40,000 door counts a month, which is a lot. A lot.
People.
There's a lot going on in there. And then our circulation continues to go up actually, which is fantastic. So it wasn't quite as high as last month, but it was higher than this time last year. So it's in that nice, almost 50,000 items a month range. Now that includes ebooks, and we want to see that go up too. And it is like, on the ebooks, it's like almost 800 more than this month last year, which is really nice to see that kind of expansion. So that's really good. As far as, where people are checking out items and where they're from in the county, that is like, we're starting to see like some pretty consistent patterns, which is very interesting to me, very, very interesting. And not that many people check out a lot of things. When you really think about how many people it is, it's thousands, and they check out, 50,000 items. It's like 5,000 people check out 50,000 items a month. That's a lot of activity. So yeah, I don't really see anything else that like jumps out at me as being good or bad. It's like, feels like it's very stable. It was a very solid summer month. And that we can be very proud of all the work that we did at the library. So any questions about statistics?
I had a question
Yeah.
about the requests. I think what I found interesting was that the number of requests that we're making out are basically the same.
You mean like the holds that we get from other libraries?
No, the holds that we're doing.
Yeah,
But from the other libraries, they're up by, I don't know if it's a trend or not, but it's the last couple of months, it's like there's a couple thousand more. So I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out the logic of that. I mean, we're sending more things out.
right?
You would think that our number, that we'd be doing more in-house because we're sending more stuff out. We must have the right stuff for the people that are on the outside.
Right.
I mean,
And so
I was trying, I don't.
they're trying to kind of perfect that algorithm up at Network, and they have tweaked it a bit so that more of what we have like doesn't have to travel out. It just satisfies the holds of people that, if I'm thinking of this in the right way, and you let me know, but it stays more for the people that are placing holds from our library. So the courier thing doesn't have to be involved. It's just there to place holds for our people. But timing and such like that is like a really funny thing. And do you know any more about that kind of stuff since you used to go to circulation committee?
No, I just know that I had a talk with Josh recently, who's the head of the network courier division. And he said we'll actually see an uptick in things going out because we finally have things that people want to borrow.
Oh.
And we have things. So he said that's going to continue to go up.
Okay.
So, and then it should equal out because we're getting a lot in.
So maybe I don't understand the whole process. So if I make a hold here and it's satisfied, because it's not here right now, but it's satisfied by our library, it still would be on that count?
So if you make a hold today, but it's not on our shelf, they will look at other libraries and it will come from another library,
So
even
there's-
if we own it. We don't wait for our copy to
Okay.
come back.
Right.
So all those, the holds the requests that we're making out, those are all satisfied by other libraries?
Well, not all of them, because some of them we do have on our shelf.
But then it wouldn't be a hold, would it?
Yeah, it would be,
Yeah.
it is a hold.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm at home and I belong to the Oregon City Library,
Okay,
but I'm at home,
and you may, okay.
and
So
I
it's-
don't care if it's sitting on the shelf, I want it to be waiting for me on the home shelf when I get there. Because by the time I get to the library, it could be gone, right?
Right,
So I'm gonna place a hold, even if I know it's sitting on the shelf, and I can find that out, right? So I'm gonna place a hold, and then that will be filled potentially from within, depending on the timing of my request. And it's still considered a hold.
so I'm still struggling with
Mm-hmm.
that process because I thought, I was thinking that we were sending all those materials out to other libraries.
We're sending out 14,929, no, 10,170 book items we sent out last month.
Okay, but the ones that are our holds then, probably not.
So
Are
I
you
think he's
asking, so this is not total holds? This would be the holds that were received from other libraries or those holds that were sent out? But if you were asking about total holds that were
But
satisfied
the number,
by
on the statistics, that the hold that is relevant to Oregon City Library, are those all satisfied by other libraries? That's what, because it's not, it seems like it's apples and oranges to me, but maybe.
No, so, like, okay, so I'm not exactly sure of your question, but this statistic only, we have many, many other statistics that I do not present to you. But this statistic only is saying what we are sending out to other libraries from holds from their patrons, and what we receive from other libraries from holds from our patrons.
Okay,
That's the only thing this is saying. And,
okay.
okay?
But if I'm at home and I make a hold and I come into the library that day, is that an account or is that not an account?
If you place a hold, it's gonna be, if it was satisfied by us pulling a book on a shelf, right? Then it should not be in this number because it was not received from another library.
Okay,
We satisfied it ourselves.
okay.
That doesn't, but it will show up on a pick list or something for us to
I understand.
pull.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand that.
But that's a different thing.
I'm still trying to figure out why our number isn't going down that we're getting from other libraries, because we must have a better, what do you call it?
Collection.
What, a collection, thank you. Because we're shipping more out. So we're satisfying those requests that are coming into us.
Well, right, but I mean, it's just like this constant like thing of like things coming in random all the time, back and forth. Like, because people don't even care where it comes from. They don't even, they just
Right.
place a hold. And so, yeah,
All right, I'll end.
yeah, we'll take this offline.
It's like how many items are in stock at our facility compared to the whole county, minus our facility?
So if you want to, like, know, like, how many items we have in our entire collection?
Well, that's, I'm basically saying, I would expect that the whole county, other than Oregon City, has more items available than the Oregon City.
Right. I would
facility.
say,
And so that
generally
would- that
speaking,
would
they do.
That would explain
Yeah,
a higher number,
yeah, and, other places get more copies of things or whatever, too.
sure.
Yeah.
So,
So Nick, I can sit down with you and we can go over like exactly all these different statistics.
Okay,
Because they break things out a number of ways. And we might like, yeah, but anyway,
you might
I guess I
want-
was thinking, I know that we're upping, our collection we're increasing it because we had got the money from the foundation and other things. And so I'm thinking that obviously that's more current books.
Right.
Or materials or whatever. So I think that's why I was expecting, I think that's what you'd said before, that our numbers should get better and better in terms of the differential between those two.
yeah, in theory, as our collection gets bigger, this should continue to go down because like some people are like, we're a net borrower, we borrow more than we loan, right? We bring in more than we send out. But other libraries are net lenders, they send out more than they bring in. So their collection is bigger than the need of their population.
Right.
Yeah, we're not there by a long shot.
Is there a total number of holds? I mean, you know,
Placed in a month that
yeah,
I could give you, yeah. It's not
it'd just be,
obviously
it would be
here.
interesting because that would tell the difference, you know? Not that that's horribly important.
Well, yeah, it tells a part of the, I mean, it probably would be kind of interesting to you guys, because if you would see some of the other totals that kind of demonstrate the work that goes on, like number of books checked in, for instance. Like, you wouldn't believe how many books are like checked back into the library and then get dispersed out or whatever back to where they belong, you know, as well. So I mean, it's just this constant, like, it's like a post office in there, really, you know? Things are coming in from all over and going back out from all over. And that's what the whole system does, it disperses materials, really, that's one way to think about it. So, one of the things we do.
One of the things. So I think your question, Nick, is just that we are fulfilling, I mean, the gap is decreasing, we are fulfilling more holds from other places, but there's been less of a decrease in the holds that are fulfilled by sending books here. And that could be just timing, you know, I mean, I think you said they're working on an algorithm, so if I put in a hold for something, and maybe there'll be a book back here in 2 days, but there's one available there, it's
Right.
gonna come from there.
Right,
So it's just
yeah.
Well, we only kind of have a couple of months' data.
Yeah.
So I don't, like I said, I don't know if that creates a trend or not. We'll have to see
Right.
how it goes with other into
Yeah.
the future, but I just found it interesting.
It is interesting.
I was getting at one other quick question. It looks
Yeah.
like we're doing more materials withdrawn. I don't know if that's a cyclical thing that,
It's so random, you wouldn't believe it.
This is, Barrett just did a huge weeding project in her
that
nonfiction
makes
section.
sense.
Yeah, in the children's area.
And in this month's stats, you'll see she added at least that many books to replace it.
Right, and so
Which makes
where it
sense, yeah.
falls in time, is
Yeah.
like, that's really hard to come up with trends. It's more probably an annual thing that would make more sense, and those kinds of things. And just to remind you guys, we will be, before our next library board meeting, which is still planned for the same, date next year, or next month, we will be closed. So the library board meeting will happen in the middle of us being closed for 4 days. We'll be closed on October 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th for some building improvements, for some training, and for some cleaning and kind of maintenance stuff too. So, and hopefully we will be reopening on Friday, October the 12th. Yeah, and during that time, no items will be due, but we also are trying to get out the message that we actually don't want to collect any items either. We don't want to even think about that kind of material stuff at all during that time, if possible. So we're gonna close down our book returns outside, which people get kind of
Yeah,
like,
strange.
what? Like, I brought these all the way down here and now you don't want them? So we're trying to start that message very early in the process. Like, just hold on to them, nobody's gonna care, just like hold on to them, it's all
I have a
fine.
suggestion.
Yes,
On the holds we've been talking about, can a little slip of paper be put in there, reminder?
yeah, actually we can get that printed up on our return receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Erin can, do that.
Good
But as you all know, people read a lot less than they
Yeah,
say they do.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm guilty.
So
Okay.
people will leave books out there. I mean,
Well, we'll have to check it.
yeah.
And we have a way to lock it closed though, but they'll leave them out there on top in the rain, you know?
Yeah,
Like I
I know.
did my job and it's like, yeah, not really, but. And then the training that we're planning on doing is a code add-on, which is the missing child training and active shooter training in the morning, and then something much more fun in the afternoon, hopefully. So we're still working on that, yeah. And that is, we had some new part-time people start. We're training them in like waves, new on-calls, those are the under 20-hour week people. We've got some great new people starting, so that's really good. That's all I can think of. Any questions about my monthly report?
I have one other
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned going out to the schools. I assume that's the Oregon City schools. Are there other schools outside of Oregon City that will also be included in that? I think we have pretty good coverage of that, but I was just
I think the
curious, how do
school
we?
district does give us pretty good coverage of our service area. We'd have to look at that. I mean, that would be our first goal, is to go to the
Okay.
Oregon City
Yeah, that makes
schools.
sense.
Because that's like a number of them right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I understand. That
I
makes
know,
sense.
yeah, stage 1.
Are you covering only public schools or are there some private schools?
Well, like St. John's is at our library all the time. We don't necessarily go there, but they come to us. Our first goal would be public. But then, I mean, private would be great.
Yeah, Clackamas
In fact-
Church and places like that.
Yeah, we have, what's that one out in the country? What was that called?
Just kind of an outreach.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've talked to some teachers out in some other schools that are not public schools. They might be charter schools, though. I never know quite where those fall. There's so many, there's kind of that gray area. I can't remember the name of it anyway. Oh, that's a really good question.
And I know there's some of our neighbors are, quote, homeschooling, but there's some sort of organization involved in that. I don't even know if they know there's a library.
Yeah, there's actually a school. What's the name of it? I could take you right over there. It's off of like Holcomb or something. And that is where like homeschool kids go for additional stuff. And I know because I brought Rotary books over there one time, because we do this Rotary dictionary thing, right? And I said, well, I'd really like to give them to the kids. And it's like, well, they're never all here together at the same time, so we don't really have a classroom for you, but blah, blah, blah. They operate really differently because of the
Yeah.
homeschool thing. Okay, so that's my report.
Anything else? So the next item is the Library District IGA Amendment.
Okay, so Nick and I know the most about this, and I'll keep forgetting the details, honestly. But as you know, there was a lawsuit between, that Gladstone filed against Clackamas County about the whole library situation. And as part of the settlement, they need to like tweak the IGA, which is the intergovernmental agreement that we all signed to agree to what we were gonna do in the district. And they needed to make a couple of really small changes, and one of them was to turn the county into a library city that could receive funds, because we had kind of, for Gladstone, because Gladstone no longer is gonna be a city library. It's actually gonna be operated by the county in the future. And so the people who are working there now, whoever gets to stay, they will become county employees. So that needed to change in the IGA. Well, and this other stuff about boundary changes and stuff like that, it just doesn't impact like us at all, but what it is a goal to make sure that there's library service to Oak Lodge and Gladstone in the way that everybody has agreed. So it's really more like, the way I view it, more of a legal stuff that needs to be taken care of than anything else. Nick, what do you want to add to
No,
that?
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
the outcome is basically just dealing with those two new libraries. And I think there was even, if I remember correctly, there were amendments, there were only like two or three amendments
Yeah,
to
there's
the
three.
IGA in the past. And I think one of those was on this same topic. So it basically dealt with that. I mean, it wasn't even any particular thing in the core of the IGA in effect.
No, it really has nothing to do with the core of the IGA. So, the interesting thing about this is that they will be using capital, they will be using district funds towards capital. And they are kind of saying that, well, this is kind of a one-time thing and we're not saying that's okay, it's okay in this situation kind of thing. And as we know in the past, that's been like, we use district funds for capital and that was like kind of in the IGA as something you weren't supposed to do, except that like half of the libraries have already done it. And that will be a topic that gets discussed more broadly at the district level once we get kind of past this stuff. So what we did is we extracted some of these topics that just had to do with Gladstone and Oak Lodge, trying to resolve them and then go back with a bigger group to like say, okay, now let's talk about those topics that really impact all of us, and that will be one of them. And the county at that point in time may be saying, well, that was just a one-time thing and da-da-da-da-da, but Nick and I both think that like it gives them way less of a leg to stand on to
It
be
does.
that
Totally.
kind of. So just so that doesn't go unstated.
What kind of a fight has he had on the location of the Oak Lodge Library? The site,
I don't know.
sighting of it?
I don't care.
So what, as I understood, what you need from us is this has to come before the city commission, and you'd like for the board to recommend the city council, city commission, Oregon
Approval
City
of this,
approval of this
yeah.
IGA. Doesn't seem to be any impact on Oregon City funds or
Right.
anything.
No.
I mean, do you anticipate any concerns by city commission staff?
I don't. In fact, we're gonna just pop it on the consent agenda, and then if they wanna discuss it, they can take it off. But they're basically getting the same report as you guys got with all the materials from Laura Zentner, who's in charge of, she's Greg Williams' supervisor, boss. And just except that I will add that, you know, you have reviewed the materials and whatever your recommendation is, up or down, so that at least they know what you're thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we call this thing?
We would call this a
Amendment to the?
amendment to the IGA.
Yes. So I could make a motion right now that we recommend that the city commission approve the amendment number 3 to the cooperative intergovernmental agreement between the Library District of Clackamas County and library cities as defined in the document below.
That's the best motion you've ever made.
Good motion. So the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay.
Nobody wants it repeated?
Moved and seconded.
I'm gonna watch the recording. I do the
Yeah,
minutes.
it wasn't
well stated. It was
great.
very
Yeah,
well
it was.
stated.
I couldn't
Very
write
well.
fast enough.
Moved and seconded that the board recommend the city commission approve amendment number 3 as presented today. Any other discussion? Ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes
Great, thank you
unanimously.
guys.
Thank you for a great motion and great clarity, but, so
Yes,
I hope that they are happy with it.
yeah, that will be on the October 3rd City Commission agenda, in case you are interested. Okay, now on to some even more meatier stuff. We redid, let's see here, what am I supposed to do if we want to actually look at this?
That's right, so I want to do the strategic plan.
Yeah, that's
This
next.
is whack.
Plan. And projector, is that what I'm supposed to do? Oh, wait, I gotta pull it up here first, that's what I'm supposed to do.
What's this stuff?
And those are the things for the amendment.
There it is. F11.
Oh, this is the background.
Background for the amendment, background for the
Great.
amendments.
Moving
I have
on.
to move to item 6,
Moving
which I
on.
don't think, so this is where we have to,
Ooh, this is our presentation thing.
Oh, that was it. Get on it and mute it. Okay.
Switch over to presentation.
Yeah, you can switch over to presentation. Oh my goodness, we finally get to do
How
that.
do you do that?
You flip that switch right there.
The switch?
Yeah, you finally get to use the switch.
Thank you.
Push it to the presentation.
And then you can sit back,
like Cecil came
get
over.
your popcorn, and
Oh, this is exciting.
Right?
Yeah.
I know, we don't get to
Yeah.
often do this. So,
Did you press your
last time
I
we
did.
met,
I held it over there.
finger off that.
Would you like my print copy?
Is it not working?
Um,
How about on the floor?
it should just pop over automatically.
Yeah. Seriously, here, it's easier.
All right.
400 pounds?
Not quite.
I don't know about, this is amazing.
It is.
Very cool.
So last time I met,
I can't afford that much
or
ink.
we met, we talked about just getting this in a little bit different format that might be more presentation worthy, that, and so I basically spent a lot of time taking the same information that you guys know about and plugging it into this format that, actually somebody at Network had come up with, Catherine, for something else completely. And, I just thought, well, this is prettier, it's a little clearer, it's definitely bigger,
It's nice.
and do you like it?
Yeah.
I like the way it's set off because,
Good.
yeah, because then you can, oh, yeah, this.
It was still, believe me, there's a reason I am not a technical writer. I got still so confused so many points along the way when we got down to like the goals and objectives and stuff. I'm like, Denise, didn't we have this in the other section? You know, so we had to go back, and if you see anything that looks like a duplication, which I still think there is some stuff, that just feel free to tell me. I will not be insulted at all, because I just like, anyway. So there's all the service responses. Service response number 5 is that pretend one that I made up.
Are you, I know we've been spending much time on this, but just
That's
one
okay.
reaction be, are we committed to the terminology of service response? I think that's one thing that's confusing.
Well,
Because it doesn't make it like a goal. It's sort of a.
I know. So service response, I try to describe it up here
That
as to
helped.
what it is, to like, try to help with that, because I do think that it's a very odd name. It's a very odd name. And if you can think of it's not really a goal, because we have goals elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? It's not really an objective, it's kind of an area or something. If you can think of another way to describe it, I'm fine with that. Because service response, we could call it service area, we could call it service topic. We could call it, the response thing is weird. That's a weird name. And I am absolutely fine. This is our strategic plan, and it needs to work for us, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I felt okay about adding a 5th service response, because it's like, geez Louise, where's all this stuff that kind of underpins like the structure of the organization that we need obviously to do a lot of work on, which comes back to the standards in a minute, So we don't have to decide that today, but if you want to think about that, I am absolutely fine with thinking about that.
But this is the term that's used at the state level, is that correct?
Well, it's the term that's used in that book.
In that book, okay.
Yeah, right.
Who wrote
So I think a lot of people end up using it, but because it's presented to us in that book, And we could probably find, if we did some research, we probably could find other words that people use. And we could do that too.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I know Denise started calling them like S and then the number, and I'm like, what's S? So anyway, service response 5, I decided to spend a little bit more time defining. And, I love my own writing, so just so you know. And then, we didn't really go into this a lot in our previous conversations, but the people who designed this format had this in here, strengths, opportunity, and challenges, and I thought, that's like not a bad idea, just to
Yeah,
like
I like
spell it
that.
out. And if you agree with these or not, just like let me know, because, I'm just kind of making this stuff up. I believe them to be true. I'm not saying that. I'm just, there's many opinions who could weigh in on this. And then they also had this like list of all characters involved. And I thought, wow, that gives us an opportunity to spell out a ton of things that people are like, who's that? Who's that? What's that definition? Because we are kind of complicated, So that's all in one place, and man, I'm looking at future board training right there, with that. It's like, in a nutshell. And actually, this could be very good for future educational purposes. And then it also included a timeline, and as much as I hate to be pinned down by a timeline, This gave me, what you'll see here is more like over the course of a year, not 5 years, but over the course of a year, like how we could kind of cycle through the things that feed into a review of the strategic plan, which should include multiple things, not just like going back and looking at this document, but like going through the standards annually, for instance, looking at the state report annually, that kind of thing. So I tried to include that stuff. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but it's all due in the fall, and that really annoys me. It's like summer reading ends. So like if you were gonna do an annual report, that would be like after July 1 or something. Like for me, it's like, well, if it's already July, why don't I just wait till the end of August and get the summer reading statistics? That's what I was thinking, right? And then I got to the end of August and got the summer reading statistics, and I'm like, oh, geez, well, I'm supposed to be like going through our standards and starting the state report because that's due October 1. And then realizing, why is everything due all at once? You know? So this may still need to be tweaked, and it's not like I have done an annual report, but I think it's a great idea. And conceivably, it should be done every July. And I think our communications person would be willing to like help us out on that too. She even gave me a format from one from somewhere in Texas that she saw that she really liked.
She would write you the state of the library speech then.
State of the library speech, right? Yeah,
So it's more lined up with your budget cycle. the annual
yeah.
report.
Yeah, for us it would be, but in fact, I would move it a little bit back so that it could include a whole summer of summer reading, because to me, that just kind of makes more sense. Yeah, so there's some like real squishiness in there. So anyway, this is just like, oh, this is a good idea to have a timeline, so I just made that one up. So then what I really liked about their format is then that they had this vision, mission, values space at the top of every single page. So you cannot forget what that is, right? It's like right there.
It's nice.
Yeah, it is nice, isn't it? And then this gave me the ability to put out goals for every single service response. And then the green background kind of distinguished it from other material. And then we go into actual objectives and activities for each service response. Now, their format also included, like, not only do you have a success measure, but you figure out your budget, you figure out your personnel, you figure out that for like every single activity. And I like looked at Denise and said, oh my God, if we, like that, to me, that's part of figuring, like that's part two of like, it's like, let's get down
Your
some
action
goals
plan.
and then like figure out implementation or what it's gonna take or whatever, you know? Obviously, we're gonna need more staff at some point if we wanna achieve all these. So maybe these goals are still around in 5 years, I don't know. But they're certainly a good starting point, and I just can't, if I was gonna come up with the answers of all that for every single activity on here, this is gonna take me another year to do. I swear to you, it will. So please do not make me, I'm begging you right now, do not make me do that. Okay, I'll stop begging now, but I just had to say that. So, okay, so then I just decided to try and make, let's see, did I do this right? Each page, or each goal at least has one page, even if it's kind of more or less empty. And, wait, where's goal 3? Oops, see, look, I found an error. Service response 1, goal.
three.
Yeah, where is it?
Intuitive access.
Do we have one? Oh, not in my copy, so we'll have to go back. Anyway, so see, this is why you look at these things. And then, you know, a lot of these things you kind of already saw, these activities and these objectives, you more or less already saw in my other document. I think what we did is we went ahead, like I told you, and we reviewed the standards, and we pulled out like a list of like this many things, a full page of things that we felt like we weren't really doing. And we plugged them in, and a lot of them fit into the final stabilize the organization goal. So I think that's where you will see, and then also some things that we didn't finish up from like the last strategic plan also got plugged in as activities. That's where you will see the most growth in, since the most changes from last month.
But you do intend to fill out the success measures without the resources as you did on the first.
Yeah, I think that what we really need to do to call this like complete for now is to have some kind of success measure for each one of these activities. I agree with you there. And, after that, I'm not quite sure.
I mean, I guess I would agree. My first thought would be, I wouldn't expect a budget and all those resources. To me, that's the action plan.
Yeah.
You know, this is the strategic
Right.
plan. It's
Right.
higher level, it's kind of the things you might try to do.
Yeah.
And then every year, you're gonna say, okay, what realistically are we gonna do this year with the resources we have? So
And
that's
then
your
have an action
Or
plan, yeah.
implementation plan, you can choose whichever word you like, but.
I would emphasize having dates
In the success measures?
in the success measures.
Okay. Well, as you can see on some of them, I just started sticking in by 2024, which is the end of the strategic plan. We will have accomplished blah, blah, blah. What, and you know what, at the very worst, that would have something there that would say that, you know?
But it's awfully nice when you do the evaluation to have a timeline to know whether you have actually done
Yeah.
things. Otherwise, everything gets done to the end of 2020.
Well, I agree, and where this differs from, and I want to go back through and think about this, and this is why this like takes for me so long, because it really takes a lot of thinking. The strategic plan we had before, basically, we had some goals or whatever, and then we had like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And you could like, right there, you could kind of make a progression right through, like what you were gonna do. And I haven't really like gone back through these goals that way. Because I think if you see that, it also helps.
But as you said, though, in your preface or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it was, the last strategic plan was basically focused on getting a new library.
It certainly
and
was.
There you sort of have a assumed
Right, progress.
hierarchy.
Yeah, you do. It's harder to come up with that kind of hierarchy for some of these other things.
But there are interdependencies between some of
There are,
those.
yeah.
Oh, very much so.
So
Very much
having
so.
some kind of
Yeah,
down to the next level or whatever. I mean, the other thing that I've used in the past was like a tactical plan, which could, when we had a strategic plan, we would take those things that we wanted to accomplish, but we didn't call it like an annual because projects go over, they don't end at the end of the year nicely like you would want them to. So we called it a tactical plan, and we would have projects that we had underway, and they might go out for, could take a year or two, particularly some of the larger ones in here, if you're gonna be, if you're, they may not end at that particular time, is what I'm saying. So that, and then basically with the strategic plan, you could, again, you want that helps you create better logic at that level. And and also then you could use your strategic plan to basically as a reporting from the standpoint of what your accomplishments and those types of
right,
things.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, just think, for instance, like we talked about having drop boxes. Think about like the multiple steps involved in like actually like getting a drop box. Because, I mean, I feel like we need to do some investigation, whatever that looks like, to figure out the best locations for those things, first of all. Then you have to identify land and,
And some things can be done in parallel and other can't.
right.
So it'd be kind of fun to do a CPM chart for this, wouldn't it?
Well, feel free, jump in. I've discovered it's kind of not my strength, so, anyway, generally, that's what it looks like. I will add success measures to it. If you have like any thoughts over like activities or objectives or anything, if it just doesn't seem like we're, barking up the right tree, please, please, please. I'm all ears.
You've done a wonderful job
I think,
putting this together.
Well,
Really.
thank you.
yeah, I think this is
I'm
much.
impressed.
Denise was huge help.
Okay. All of you together.
She's like a really good editor too. She like is like good at catching mistakes.
Everybody needs an editor.
I know, yeah, I know, Don. Isn't that the
Nobody wants to
truth?
pay for one.
I know. It just comes with the whole package here.
But this format is much friendlier
Yeah.
and intuitive. I mean, you can sort of follow.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me get down, I don't mean to like make your eyeballs spin by doing this. Some of them are easier to come up with things than others too. So this is at goal 5, and this is the documentation and all that stuff. I'm sure that the library board adopted ALA, Bill of Rights and certain documents way back when. I believe since then, though, that there have been some other more nuanced documents that, for instance, like free access to minor statement, just things like that, that I don't think the library board has actually adopted. So what I'd like to do is like kind of, get all that stuff out in front of you, re-adopt, like it's kind of like renewing our vows,
All
Let's
those
think of it
ends
that-
in your,
Yeah. And then we can be sure that can be the kind of thing that annually, when we bring on new board members, like we review all those documents and it's fresh with the people who are on board as well. And maybe annually, we just do that as a group,
See, this
whatever.
is great. This is the whole thing. You get the success measures with the thing like this. Yeah, I can see how it all works now.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, and for instance, like the collection development policy, we know exactly when we created it. And in the standards, they recommend that you review it every 3 years. Well, so that gives us a date, that gives us, like, that's all we need. And, so it's great. So there's a whole bunch of things under goal 1. And then continuing on, well, we realized also, we don't have a technology plan. So we're kind of in that place where we need to get more sophisticated in like what we're doing, And we don't have staff development plans. And we don't have a plan to do an annual survey of any kind. And there's certain things that like, these are the standards that are telling us, this is best practice, you should do this. And that's like just great for like giving you some direction. And then you're getting all this really valuable community feedback that then inform your decisions. You're getting them on a regular basis, so then you can accumulate this information over time, So we just need to get that in place and have a habit. And I feel like that would be like, legacy number 2 is to have that really solid infrastructure laid for future people. Like, this is just what we do every year. We have this like community needs assessment, and we look at diversity, and we look at this, and we look at that, Those are
One thing
things
with
that are really
One thing
important.
with some of the plans that I was thinking about, like the technology plan, you're one piece of, the city must have a technology plan.
Oh,
So you're.
do they? Oh, do they?
Oh, do
I
they?
don't
They
know.
should.
Yeah,
Okay, so if let's just make that assumption. Okay, so that actually answers a lot of the questions around technology, because that's the basis for what you're using. And it also addresses a lot in terms of security and other things from that
right,
standpoint.
but we
Not in
actually,
terms of,
we're on 2 networks, so we actually are Link and the city,
that was my other point.
and,
The Link must have a.
yes, they do.
They have a plan. So
Yeah.
between those two, you have to look at it. You have those two. If those two are in place, then you're looking at what you do
Yeah.
in your walls, and
Right.
it may not be as overwhelming as it sounds.
No, you're right, and there's already stuff that's out there, even if it's not a plan, there's like a practice of like replacing blah, blah, blah every 5 years, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And that's just what's gonna happen for certain equipment, and then on the other side, we already have a practice of setting aside a certain amount of money so that like Link equipment can get replaced on a regular basis. So yes, you're right, we've got those things covered, we just need to kind of document them.
Right.
And then we need to say, and then what's left over? Oh, our 3D machine, that kind of stuff, for instance. I don't know, we've got all kinds, like, you'd be surprised how much stuff we have. But, you're right, a lot of it would fall under one or the other. But we're, how much money do we want to spend on some of those things? It goes between a technology plan and really a collection development plan. Because like some of that stuff gets checked out as part of our collection. Like we have laptops that are gonna start being able to be checked out. By the way, we have laptops that are, as soon as Aaron gets back from vacation so that he can deal with problems as they come up.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna be checking out in-house laptops.
What model?
We've been working with Link, they're Like
They're
Lenovo.
Lenovo
350?
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks, okay.
Okay.
They're heavy duty, they could be dropped and live through it.
It's left out in the rain in the collection.
No,
No, it doesn't go outside the building.
No, no, we're not letting stuff go out yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I was
It's
like, oh
let's
my
do
God,
first
this is a
things first.
nightmare.
And Sandy Library is doing the whole checkout, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna start this way. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But that seems to be where, when I think of you doing a technology plan for the library, it's about service side. I mean, yeah, there's the nuts and bolts and making sure equipment, but it's really thinking ahead.
Yeah.
You know, as it relates to your other goals.
Right.
I mean, if you're creating literacy for young children, how does technology play into that? And this is
Right.
the sort of
Well,
overarching,
and
and
we,
you have
it
to always
it
stay
kinda has
kind
to
of
include
ahead.
all of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And then, oh yeah, staff has, and according to the standards, you know, staff has to have diversity training and this kind of training and that kind of training, and it's like, that's great, that helps direct our, you know, staff training. Okay, one of the things that we should have been doing a lot more of, and I think you guys haven't really suffered from it, but, you know, is more training for the board. So, obviously, you guys all got orientation at the start of your term, that's not a problem. As far as you being familiar with ORS 357, which I believe gives the minimums of what a library is in Oregon, a public library, you know, that's nothing that we ever really reviewed, and it's changing, so don't worry about it until it's like set. The standards we have started going through annually, but that's like relatively recent. I wanted to get you a draft library, annual report to the library, the state library, except that I didn't get my information from, like, Link provides a bunch of statistics to us, and I didn't get that until like 2 days ago. And so, sorry, you won't see it till next month. It's due October 1st, so. But you'll get to see it afterwards. And then, there's just a lot of these things that, you know, so that was really good to go through. And then, you know, survey tools and that kind of stuff. So, and then I really like is that my last one? My last objective. How do we pay for this?
That's a good question.
It is a good question, isn't it? And, you know, I had a couple of not too bad answers.
Well, that question right there goes all the way back to the district and the fund and the taxing level that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, is
And that will be included in those bigger conversations
the
that we start
commission's
having.
budget and
Yeah.
the wealth of the community. I mean, wow, the tendrils go a long ways out there.
Well, yeah, it all works together, right?
As long as you got a book, you're okay.
Because we do need more staff, so we really do need to think about this. Yeah. So good so far? I'll
Yeah.
add success measures.
Yeah, that's great. This is the first step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then doing all this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a lot of years' work.
Yeah.
I'm not
well,
gonna, you know, as Martin Luther King said, we
got
may
all
not
those
finish this road together, whatever that quote was, right? Yeah. That's okay. We'll get it in a good, solid place to get it started.
So you had back on your timeline, maybe that was more your annual timeline. So what's your timeline now? Because eventually this has to go to the city commission, is that where it goes?
Well, that
Or
was
how
our
did it-
thought, that it would go to the city commission. We can definitely get it to them, but I'm thinking that it wouldn't be until December at this point, honestly. Because like, staff has not reviewed this document either. Like, I'm not gonna like subject them to a bunch of goals and objectives without them be able to weigh in on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to put in a bunch of success measures, I'll do that, review it with staff, bring it back to you, then we can like discuss how ready it is for the city commission. How's
Okay.
that?
This is actually pretty brilliant, you know.
Pretty what?
Brilliant.
What, the format?
No, everything you've done here.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, the format really, really helped.
Yeah.
And that we totally stole from Catherine up at Link. She's a genius.
Well, however you adapted it, it's brilliant.
Well, thank you.
It's all right to steal from the good things.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, librarians, we believe in sharing, as
There
you
you
know.
go.
That's right, we're not stealing, we're
No,
sharing.
we're not
Whatever you call
stealing.
it.
We are sharing.
Isn't that the definition of library?
Oh, well,
Right.
right? Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. So there's that. Any more questions about, let's see if I can get back to, here's our, where'd our meeting go to?
Oh,
Uh-oh. There it is. Is that it?
I'm back to my meeting.
There it is. There's our meeting.
So we go back to,
You just flip the other thing over, I think. I kind of like the
Now
sliding.
you're on the.
Yeah, I
Does
got
everybody
it.
like sliding? I wish this had
What are you
voice.
doing?
he's got the reverse there.
What is this? Help this man, help.
Projector up.
Oh, I thought maybe you had the standards on PowerPoint too.
No, I don't
Flip your switch
actually.
over there,
I should have.
this way. Wait, just wait. Don't touch anything.
I got it
So,
now,
That's
so-
what the hell that is.
So next up is the standards, which you sent out, and I'm sure everybody read all 44 pages.
No,
With interest. Don't
And
tell
we
me you
appreciate
used
that
it
you
at
did.
bedtime to put you to sleep.
Just look for the ends.
There you go,
there we
yeah.
go.
Wait a minute, I was there already.
You were, I took you off.
You killed it.
Yeah.
So what is really, really important for you guys to know about these standards is these are the new improved standards. You are the very first beta testers of these new improved standards, which actually will still have, I already know about some editing that will happen to them. So Dawn, I don't want to hear it if you say it. However, the substance is going to be basically the same. And what was really interesting to me is we were able to include in like page 6 or whatever, page 6, and 7, minimum requirements for Oregon Public Libraries. So this is what would be in ORS 357 right here.
And this was new, right? Because I thought
This is not new to the state, but it's been revised and it's new to the standards.
okay, I
Yes.
thought it was new to the standards.
It
I
is
don't
new to the
remember that from
standards.
before.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It
Which I
is.
think is a great, to
Right?
say, like, this is the minimum.
Like, if you don't meet this, then just stop. Well, so
Because it sort of defines this is what a public library is.
Well, and that's where it's really helpful for kind of everybody, right? We, don't really have a specific patron confidentiality
Yeah.
policy. So we will be writing one of those pretty fast. And then the other thing that we have a question out to the state on, and there's no specific answer yet. But the last one says the library has a dedicated space compliant with the American with Disabilities Act to make materials and services accessible to people with disabilities. And Nick, I don't consider that we have a dedicated space, do you?
No.
The whole building? It's accessible, the whole building, isn't it?
Well, usually there's devices and things like that that would enable disabled people
And,
to get access to.
and I would really like to get your opinion on this. Like, I think that's fabulous, but I personally don't think that you cannot be a library without that. What do you think?
I would agree. If you're talking about serving the community, those people are part of the.
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what I just said.
The question is the dedicated. I
The
think that's where
dedicated
the
is what
question
I'm
comes.
saying.
I don't think it necessarily has to be dedicated, but because there's a lot of examples of, how it's integrated into
Yeah.
what you're doing. So, that, for me, that's the ideal, because
It's just-
who wants to be singled out? Okay,
Well,
go over here
right.
because you're disabled. But,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, if the accessibility tools or whatever helps you and you don't have access to someplace else. So I think again, it's an exercise of going through and seeing, technology allows for me personally, if I can do screen enlargements and things like that, and that it's easily done. I remember going to a library up in Whistler, they had it locked, so there was no way that I could do it.
Right.
So
Oh,
there's,
I could
you know what I'm
see that
saying? There's,
happening, yeah.
so I look at it that way,
Uh-huh.
that there are things that you can generically make accessible.
So
And
if you-
there are other things that, like we
Right.
talked about, with large, with the readers and things like that.
Yeah, it's that word dedicated that, it throws me for a loop. So must a library have dedicated space in order to be considered a library? That,
But if you had like
that's
a,
a minimum requirement for
Yeah, I
it to
think
be
it's
an
a-
Oregon public library.
but if you had like a CCTV, would you, I mean, that could go any place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, it depends on how you define space, I guess.
Well, exactly. So that's why I put the question back out to, the people on the standards committee, which includes, state library representatives. I'm like, really? I mean, let's think about this for a minute. Let's make sure that we're framing this the way that we really want it framed. So,
I mean, all of those things can be used by someone else.
well, exactly.
I mean, it's not exclusive to.
Yeah, but when you
a
use the word
disabled person.
dedicated, it makes it sound like it has to sit
Right.
there waiting for, you
Right.
know, somebody with disabilities to use it, right?
True.
So,
And if you don't have a disability, you can't go in there?
Well, that's when
maybe,
you-
I
that's
don't
when you
know.
get
I
into
mean,
the
it
whole-
wouldn't
that
be
whole
like,
space
it
thing.
didn't have to be like a room or anything, it could just be like a station.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's fine. I just, I'm on the group that thinks about these things down to the last word like this, and I just felt like that required more thinking and more talking. So, because I don't feel like, as nice as our library is, we have a dedicated space.
Can you take a minute, Mo, and just what we were talking about earlier about the standards and
the
sort
standards?
of what are they used for? and-
Yeah.
And that whole thing.
Yeah. So, so the standards are a really interesting animal that's done very differently from state to state. In our state of Oregon, the Oregon Library Association is the shepherd of the standards for public libraries. In some states, it is the state library. So the state library in Oregon is in charge of the minimum requirements to be a legally defined public library, but they don't really have anything to do with the rest of the standards. So, but we work together on lots of things, so that's where those two things come together. So in Oregon, in some states, if you meet these standards, you get money or not get money based on your compliance with state standards. In Oregon, there is absolutely nothing tied to this financially. So it is up to every library to decide to follow these as if they want to or not. But what it is basically is what we feel like in the professional organization of our state, that these are like best practices of things that public libraries should be doing, offering, having in place as far as policies, all that stuff. So what we urge libraries to do is to review these annually, particularly with their library boards and the people who are involved in funding libraries, because all this stuff takes money, to go through and at least be aware of what the library professionals in the state feel are like what public libraries should be offering. As you can see, we've listed them out as essential things that we should be doing, which means we should say yes to all the essentials. And then enhanced and exemplary, and then there are people like Deschutes that have so much money that it's just coming out of their, rolling out of their library. They can do even more. And it's we wanna make some standards that would all libraries could look at and get some value out of looking at. So we've tried to come up with a document that doesn't penalize small libraries for not having money, but also can speak to bigger libraries that have lots of money, so it's really hard to meet all of that. So these are essentially best practices. And we're asked to review these annually to see where we stand on each of these areas, and it covers all areas, as you could tell. So basically I've gone through, and it was really good because I went through them once and I'm gee, I don't really know if we do that. I'll ask Denise. Denise knows everything. I'll ask her. And it was great because it forced us to talk about things. And then we can take some of these things back to even specific evaluations, with Barrett or with Gina or whatever, and say, adult programs really, you need to really be thinking about having a summer reading program for adults with intellectual disabilities, because that's not something that the children's department should be offering. And I don't need to put that in her evaluation because she's gonna do it, but it became very clear to us this year that we do not do that. So, I mean, it just gives you all it keeps you on track for doing the things that public libraries should be doing. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, and I guess.
Oh, and there's
it's-
one
it's-
more.
It's not reported to the state then? This is strictly local.
This is, except.
Oh, that's right, you
So,
told me the
except in the
exception.
state report now, they have a question that usually asks something like, have you reviewed the public library standards with your ward? You know, at least they want you to like, even if you don't meet them all, at least review them so that the board is educated as to what professionals think is important. And then in Clackamas County, we have a provision in our IGA, the agreement that we've all signed on to, that says that we will strive to meet, it would be the essential, but like 10 years ago or whenever we signed it, it was different language. It was something else, but we will strive to meet those, strive. So
But again, are we reporting those back to the district?
we report, yes, in our annual report, I believe there is a thing in there that basically says, no, these are not reported individually, but what it says is you've reviewed this with your library board.
Okay, but again, these answers
Yeah.
are just for
Yep.
us. I mean, I, by knowing that, it makes me view it differently. Because I was like, I was thinking this was gonna be a huge database and they're doing analysis of it and all those kind of things. And that was like, these things are quasi-subjective. They're statements, but they're not real discrete in terms of what exactly you're trying to accomplish. And
Right.
so I'm reading it that way. I'm going, wow, how do we even know? And how important is it? I mean, there could be, it almost like some of these questions you answer in one place, but it's in a different section. When you see it, it's almost the same statement, but it's addressing a different
Yeah, from a
topic.
different angle.
Right, from a different angle.
Yeah, we try to get rid of like outright duplication, but some things are addressing a different angle, and they're squishy and subjective for a reason. And that reason is that it's really hard to like say, well, what is the right number for like a certain population to have like a number of books per person or something? Who's gonna define that? You know, who's gonna decide that? There's no one right answer. What I thought would be good to include in here is like a statement that says, you know, we do blah, 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 and that's demonstrated by, you fill in the blank. And
Right.
you guys decide locally, because in Oregon, we are all about local, governance of our libraries. It's like, it's all about the community. What does the community say on such and such? What are the community's needs? Every community is different. So that's why this group is so very important, though.
When I read the standards first and I went to the strategic plan, and I know that there's things that we don't do that are in the standards, but I saw them reflected as things that we want to address
Yeah.
in the strategic plan.
Yep.
Is it possible, I mean, not current, it doesn't have to be done right away, but it'd be interesting to see if we did the strategic plan, how many of those no's would we address?
If we accomplish this whole strategic plan,
Yes,
well, we would get rid of all these no's. I made sure that like virtually everything that we weren't doing in here went in that.
so then I'm sorry to, then my question is, do we want to do all the things? Like a no may be fine for us. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that's my question. I mean, that's why it seems like there's a differential, because there's things that, yes, it's in the standards, but we don't, I don't want to say we don't care, but
well, like what would that be? Do you have an example?
no.
Okay.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but
That's fine. I mean, we've got time to think about these things.
I mean, the whole thing with like facility planning and that kind of thing, it doesn't seem like for us, since we have this new facility, we can be looking at it, but it's not like it's going to be part of our strategic focus because we have this new building. And
I
so,
think I have an example.
okay,
There was a thing on maintenance,
Yeah,
and we don't do our own maintenance, is that correct? The county does it for us.
on the building?
Yeah.
No, it's a city building. We do our own maintenance.
I said county, I meant city, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So
Well-
we locally, you in your budget,
yeah.
don't have a maintenance person, is that correct?
Well, I do actually pay 1/4 of a maintenance person's salary who works for the city, and then I do pay for, of course, the custodian as well on top of that.
But the questions that were in here seem to imply that out of the library's direct budget, all things would be covered, but locally by the library.
Well, we actually pay for everything that's done at the
I'm
library.
sure we do.
Yeah, right?
we
One
do.
way or the other,
Like
yeah.
free library service, right?
Yeah,
Well, you answered the question though. I mean, if the strategic plan is going to address all those no's, then that's basically the answer. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of things. I mean, when I read it, it looked like it was pretty consistent in terms of what I kind of summarize as 4 or 5 areas in the standards that I thought were, things that we really needed to give some focus to. And when I looked in a strategic plan, it also looked like those were in there, at that level. Because again, how we do some of those things is up to us to decide from the standard
Right.
standpoint.
well, I certainly think that like the essential level of these things should be met. Now, if it's exemplary or enhanced and we decide we don't want to do it, that is like, I think, a really good area for local kind of, why do we need that,
Right.
So when our group went through this and talked about essential, we really tried to make it essential.
But like some of the things you could address through partnerships too. I don't want to.
And that's fine, and that's where it's like, how you answer these things or how you do it, that's up to you.
Right.
And that's where I thought it would be good to like say, as evidenced by blah, 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 and that's fine,
I mean, an example
Nobody
is
really
like,
cares how it gets done.
like the whole thing with video and Willamette Falls Media Center is a great center, and for us to try to replicate that would be,
nuts,
yeah,
yeah.
that's,
Well, right, exactly. But like, we could work with them and have our teen advisory group go down there and enjoy a certain amount of programs and learning that could take place down there.
right.
And we could still take credit for it because we made that partnership happen and we created
That's
the program.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a good example. And we actually have done one thing down there with them. The teams toured there, I think, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so like, as I'm answering yes to these things, like, or no, or whatever, I mean, I'm thinking about all those variables. I'm like going, oh, we do this through da-da-da-da-da. Yes, absolutely, we made it, and we meet it. And that's why that's why they're kind of squishy, also, so that the library director can decide that that's meeting it locally. Because like, why should I have my own video facility here? They've got green screens and all that stuff down there, yeah.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we don't want to go through the 44 pages of this.
Let me just ask.
Oh,
does
shoot,
anybody
I
want
had
to-
questions on every page.
I was actually ready, but no.
Not if you don't have to.
It does seem like, so from what you said, as LDAC looks at the IGA, I mean, if they've linked them to the essential elements, then that becomes a financial
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
commitment.
more for us locally than anybody, yeah.
And I don't know if the minimum requirements become part of the commitment to the city commission. I mean, if you ever pushed it to that point, if they said they wanted to pull out their funding, say you can't be a public library, an Oregon City Public Library without doing these things.
Well, that would be a very interesting discussion, because they might say, well, you're hooked up with Link, and that's a governmental agency, whatever, But yeah, I mean, I think it could help us a lot too, yeah. But it would be an interesting conversation, yeah. I thought about that as well.
My sense is, no, we don't want
I
to
know.
review all 44 pages.
I'm so disappointed.
But if anybody has feedback on language or making them
Yeah.
clearer, since these are part of the beta testing, you're on both the
Or,
committee.
yeah,
creating these.
or how I answered them at all,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I thought they were, I think the tools are really good, and now that I understand it better, it's even better.
Yeah, we
better-
have a
better for
strange
me.
set of tools, I know. I can't think of anything really that jumped out at me, because I put it in the strategic plan if it like jumped out at me. But I mean, they even have a section in here that talks about what you have in your strategic plan, which cracked me up. I'm like, oops, don't have that. You know, your strategic plan articulates a method for reflecting the demographic, ethnic, and social diversity of its community and regularly reviews and evaluates, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my goodness, well, better stick that in there somewhere. Cause that's under essential. And I'm like, I'm thinking I'm a pretty good library director, but some of these things I don't do. I feel sorry for people out there and like, that are running the library by themselves and have to do all this stuff too.
Yeah, really.
So, I mean, I expect at some point in time, we could get pushback from that kind of person that says, those are not essential. And that would be like a conversation that then we would have as an organization, you know? The Public Library Division of the Oregon Library Association. That's good, would be good feedback. And I tried to think about that as well, like, is that really essential, that kind of thing, so, okay, well.
It seems like at a minimum, you know, if people are interested for future, I mean, you can go through and see if there are areas that particularly have more no's. I mean, are there some trends in no's?
Yeah.
That sort of tells us a little bit about where the,
Right.
and that sort of links back to the strategic plan.
Right.
And what might be a higher priority in re-implementation focus, I mean.
Link will get really excited if they haven't seen, LDAC hasn't seen this, those people haven't seen this, because, it's just not quite ready for prime time. But I thought it was appropriate for us to use for our annual review, because it's the latest and the greatest, and besides, we did need beta testers.
I mean, it was a great reference in terms of the plan. I mean, you know, it gave you another checkpoint in terms of
Yeah, it
what's in the
kind of was
plan.
good
So,
timing, actually,
Yeah, I think it's definitely a valuable tool.
Okay, well, that's that. That's what I got on that.
Any other questions on the standards? No. Okay.
This time.
Then our last agenda item is what we normally call communications. That's sort of feedback from any other, from groups that got official representation on. So Friends, I'll start with the Friends.
Friends, okay.
Ken has represented us on the Friends of the Library.
Well, I sit in there and listen. They're gonna have their next meeting on the 17th of October instead of a week earlier because the library's gonna be closed. They're working on things to sell, things to do. They've got a nice T-shirt they're thinking of selling. They're selling books too, by the way. There's a possibility of a large collection coming from a bookstore, used bookstore that's collapsing, but we haven't got any details on that. And there's no treasurer's report because the treasurer is not there. But it seems like everything's going well for them. They're going to set up a meeting with the foundation, between them and the foundation, so that they don't step on each other's toes and they stay friends. And that's basically what's going on, besides the fact that they're working on their thing for November, December,
Right.
their
Their anniversary.
situation, and they seem to be pretty busy.
Any chatter about how well their bottle return campaign's going?
Oh, the bottle return, gave them like $54 last month.
Yeah,
I didn't
they
write
did.
it down.
They did get some money from that.
They get some from that. There was one little incident where Harriet had a roll of plastic bags, you know, you buy at the store, and they disappeared.
Uh-oh.
So,
For the bottle return thing?
no,
Oh,
just trash
regular.
bags.
Oh,
She
okay.
was a little,
That's
you know,
impressive.
flick at the ceiling.
So the more successful the Friends of the Library are, is the more money they have to give to the library, so it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
So this bookstore thing, what they're thinking about is if they indeed learn more about it, and it seems like a good deal, they put it in the stuff, materials in storage for a while, and we're trying to help them find a location for that.
Sure.
And then they turn around and have a big book sale in the community room of the library, like in the winter, with cleaning out shelves from the bookstore as well, and see if they could get rid of some dead wood on their shelves too. Cool.
Well, there's another little thing that I thought was interesting. They pay the Chamber of Commerce for an ad in their thing. It seems to be a considerable amount, you know, it's in the hundreds, not the
Yeah.
50s. And the idea came up, you know, we don't know if it's doing us any good or not. So they're gonna put a coupon on that ad.
good.
And so they can, when people come in, turn in a coupon, they can keep track
Yeah.
if anybody's paying attention to
That's a
that.
really good idea.
Because he said, it seems to me the chamber may try to make outreach to everybody, but it just seems like all the business people want to keep track of each other, and people out in the world are not getting the information.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's a clever idea,
Yeah.
turn it into a coupon.
Yeah, and that was their idea.
That's great. And so their luncheon is, their annual luncheon is sometime.
Yeah, and they're trying to figure out where to have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And then they'll have an anniversary, a couple of anniversary events too,
they,
for their 20th.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm sure they'll invite the library board, so,
well, that would be nice.
yeah. Well, yeah, they're pretty good about that.
I know they're doing a chamber after hours.
Right.
November, I'm gonna say the 15th
Yeah, I think
or
that's-
something.
That sounds
one.
right to me too. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's on my calendar, but
It would probably be Thursday.
is that when they are
Yeah,
usually?
usually
Okay,
Thursday.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. Foundation, so you mentioned foundation. I sit on the foundation representing us, but I did not make the last meeting, which was a couple weeks ago. And so I'm gonna defer. I know the foundation is gonna do another thank you to all the donors event in October.
October 18th.
October 18th.
It's a Thursday evening. It starts at 5:30, comments at 6. Yours truly will be speaking briefly. You will be getting invitations in the mail, a nice postcard, like a wine and cheese party. You will be there,
And I'll be
of
there.
course, yes. And it's just kind of our, annual way of keeping it out, keeping this in front of people. And last year was a much bigger kind of thing, but we don't want people to lose their interest in this. And I will be, I met with Karen Martini and a couple people the other day. I will be trying to use the strategic plan as a setup to get people thinking about future, stay interested in the library because we have a lot of future things going on. So I'll try and probably just maybe lift some of our pages right out of the plan that we've created now. Probably the ones with the green background that just list the goals real broadly, just keep it very high level so people can kind of see the areas and stuff. So if we could think of a different name for the service responses before October 18th, that would be good, because Karen wants me to come up with poster size things that could stand on easels, and we could stick them to foam core so that they would be nice and sturdy, and people would at least have something to look at and think about. And I won't go into a great deal of detail when I talk about them, of course, because that's not where people want to go, but at least let them know that we're developing things that could end up costing a ton of money, so.
I think if you pick out things that have kind of that are very tangible,
Yes.
Book drops.
The books
Book
for
drops,
babies,
yes.
the book drops,
Right.
those kinds of things, then people can
Exactly,
kind of
so
see.
maybe I'll even highlight those.
You want a better verbiage for service response?
Yeah,
I'll ask DA, I'll see him Friday,
okay. All right, you do that.
if I remember.
Yeah,
And at the foundation meeting, you also had some requests for some specific,
Right.
I assume that got approved.
it got approved, it was $6,500 from Barrett, who wanted to have money for topical collections for babies, trucks and horses and stuff like that. Money for an order from Usborne, which like will charge the foundation 50% of what it will cost the library. So $2,500 from the foundation will buy $5,000 worth of books, which is a good deal, and they're good quality books. And then LGBT collection, can you remember the others? It totaled up to $6,500. The foundation's been very.
Mostly about youth, it was all
It was all about youth,
children and youth.
because the foundation's been very generous, particularly to youth, because Barrett's really good at thinking up requests. And I'm like, kind of need to make sure that we get equal access to adult stuff. And I think actually Gina has come up with some really good ideas. But my bad, she wasn't really thinking along those lines of that being an option, do you know what I mean? So kind of have to say, like, if you need friends and foundation, we need to think about it, which is why the co-meeting is really good, so that we can talk about who does what. Focus on programs, focus on materials, whatever, you know? So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the third group is LDAC, which Nick represents us on.
LDAC, we're meeting on September the 24th,
I'll be gone.
and Mo will be gone. I'll be there by myself, unless somebody volunteers. No, I'm just kidding. And I think the topic mainly will be, we have the master agreement and the IGA to review, to evaluate and review, and there's an approach that's been defined, but Greg was going to, I guess, fine tune it so we could really see if we could get agreement on the approach to how that's gonna happen. Is that a fair statement?
You know, I will know more on Friday, because on Friday, the directors meet, and Greg emailed me today and mentioned that Al Manteco, who is our chair of LDAC, is coming. And so he believed that we would probably be reviewing the agenda for that meeting. So I'll be able to get you more information about what to expect.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think you're probably right on target. Which is interesting, because the city manager was recently asking, like, what's the makeup of that big committee? And I'm like, I don't think we've decided yet, so,
I'm getting to that point.
yeah, you want to be on it? No.
We're still trying to figure out what the table, we're still trying to figure out if the table's gonna be round or square.
Pretty much, yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
That's pretty much the report. Oh, how about the statistic? Is that still going on, Mo, with the?
The what?
The data, the statistics that were gonna be reported by each library, that comparative
We've
database?
agreed on the format of the report, and we've completed our reports from last year, previous year. We kind of plopped it all into this new format, and we reviewed that at a meeting that seems like it was a really long time ago now, but it's been like a really long time since we've had like a big group meeting. So I attended the subcommittee meeting and represented the directors, and basically said what our real point was to LDAC was, if you have a problem with anything on this report, you need to respect the process of library boards and the director going back and trying to resolve these issues before you like take it straight to the Board of County Commissioners. Because it felt like it felt like before they were gonna, like, if they didn't see something they didn't like, that they were gonna run and kind of tattle on to the county commissioners about it. It's like, we're happy to, like, if you see something you don't like, please let us know. And we would, want the time to review it with our library board, talk about how we can or cannot address whatever it is you don't like, before you go doing that. And they were,
I'm assuming that's the usual suspects,
what,
talking about running off and tattling, right?
well, yeah.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
they were all like, yeah, of course, because the local library board and the local library director, that process, they kind of understood where we were coming from and how important that is. Because we are community driven, not driven up there. And that was kind of our point.
I mean, I think it could be really valuable, and as the master agreement and the IGA is as it progresses in terms of trying to look at funding and that type of thing. I mean, because we
Well,
have to have some basis for making those kind of recommendations.
yeah, well, that's. I had something written down for, great, I almost didn't understand my note. For future agenda item, in addition to all the stuff that we still need to like wrap up, we are gonna need 3 new board members. So you are termed out, you are end of your term and happy to leave. And then we still have DAs. So, we will have 2 out of city and 1 in city, openings.
And I can't remember if we do interviews in November or December?
Well, I think by the time we did them, it was December. But, so yeah, one of the things we need to put on our agenda for like probably next month is to review the questions. The application process is pretty straightforward. They just, fill out the application and tell us why they're,
Is that online?
yeah, it's all online, and Katie Riggs pretty much sets it up and directs people towards that. But if we know people who are interested, like you said, you knew somebody, somebody from the stakeholders group has contacted me and said she might be interested, so I'll send her the link when she gets in touch. Please be thinking about people, because especially the out of city is hard to fill for some unknown reason. So please be thinking of people.
And so do you think that's already online?
No, it's not quite yet. Katie just sent the email to the department heads asking, this is what I have listed as what your empty positions are gonna be, is that accurate? And so she's going to do something with that by Friday though, so it's gonna be really soon. So, because she likes to leave lots of lead time. And then the other thing we need to think about is maybe we do this in conjunction with presenting a strategic report, but the city commission typically likes to get a visit from and a report from each board annually. And I'm not sure we did that last year, but whatever. Maybe we can do that in conjunction with, like, here's our strategic plan, and this is what we've been doing this year. It seems like we've been awfully busy to me, I mean, who would have thought we'd be here till 20 to 7? And there's another meeting that happens at 7, we gotta
So
get out of here.
So what I
Yeah.
have for a future next agenda is update on strategic plan, the LDAC report, because you'll have that annual, right?
I'll have the
State report.
state report, yeah, state report.
State report, and then board member recruitment
Perfect.
planning.
Yeah,
Anything else besides the usual, whatever else?
yeah,
Okay,
that's all I've got right now.
okay,
That's a full meeting right there.
that is a full meeting. So, anything else for the good of the order? And I think we
Great.
are adjourned at,
I know.
6:38.
Rescue my
So,
dog.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good meeting.